It me, J-Bone. Before we get into today's show, I want to ask a quick favor from you all. If you enjoy the Formula Bone F1 show and want to do your part to help me grow it, you can do so right now in the form of leaving the show a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and a 5-star rating on Spotify. A little peek behind the podcast curtain for you all to see how this kind of industry and charting works with regards to podcasts. Those of you who are longtime listeners will remember that we were able to launch the Formula Bone F1 show as the #1 Formula One podcast on Apple Podcasts a while back, largely because of those ratings and reviews. They really factor into the charting. Now, the Formula Bone F1 show has since dropped down, as older shows tend to do, and I'd like to bump it back up the charts with the help of your ratings and reviews. Ratings and reviews are really important in helping people find the podcast organically, especially right now, as a ton of people are looking for a Formula One podcast ahead of the upcoming 2022 season. That's getting closer and closer every day. I guess that's how days work, but you know what I'm saying. And I want the Formula Bone F1 show to be that podcast that they find. It only takes 1 minute to do both combined. Simply go to our podcast page on Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star rating and helpful review. Then move on over to Spotify and leave a 5-star rating, and boom, you're done. You help me out a ton. And as always, whether you end up leaving a rating and review or not, if you're listening to this right now, I really, really appreciate you being here either way. All right, let's get into it. This is the Formula Bone F1 show. J-Bone! Welcome back to the Formula Bone F1 show, the Formula One podcast that hopes a French magazine declares it the world drivers champion of F1 podcasts. I'm Jared Borislow, but you can call me J-Bone. Thank you so much for joining me here today, and away we go. With today's first topic, allow me to recap the big February 14th F1 Commission meeting for you all. I'm going to make the bold proclamation that there's nobody in Formula One right now better suited to summarizing F1 Commission meetings than I, J-Bone. Now, you may be wondering, why is that, J-Bone? Please tell me, and I will. The reason is that in college, I was the secretary for my fraternity, Phi Gamma Delta, meaning I was the one who had to take notes during all of the fraternity meetings and also summarize all the fraternity meetings. That is to say, that when it comes to summarizing meetings put together by generally incompetent, blundering, and corrupt organizations, I'm that guy, pal. I'm that guy. So, the February 14th F1 Commission meeting was the first F1 Commission meeting of 2022 and the first with new FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem in attendance. It resulted in the FIA making a media statement that focused on 3 main points, with an accompanying note that pointed out that all regulatory changes mentioned in the media statement are not final until the World Motorsport Council approves them. Granted, I find it hard to believe the FIA and Formula One would, put something out there that they didn't think was going to get approved. You think they would at least talk to the Motorsport Council in private and be like, hey, we're going to say this and we don't want to look stupid and you don't want to look like you're stepping on our toes. So let's work together and make sure you're going to approve this before, you actually do, so we can announce it. Just my thought. So the first topic covered in the media statement about the F1 Commission meeting was the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Now, their statement here was actually a non-statement, to be honest. The FIA president led detailed discussions of the 2021 FIA Formula One Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Feedback from the commission on matters raised will be incorporated into the president's analysis, and he will publicly present news of structural changes and action plan in the coming days. That is all they said about the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix in this media statement. They said, Mohammed Ben Sulayem specifically will publicly present news of the structural changes and action plan in the coming days. So it does sound like there will be structural changes coming. And I guess there's an action plan of some sort also coming. We don't have them yet. They might have wanted to not put it in this statement because they thought it was important enough to give it its own statement. However, it kind of sounds like a lot of people are anxiously awaiting the results of this meeting to get the answers that they've been wanting ever since the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Haven't gotten them yet. I think they should have been maybe a little bit more he will publicly present them in a very in-depth manner to give it all the time it deserves. I don't know. I just feel like a lot of people are complaining that they thought this statement was going to have a little bit more information, but they just kind of kicked the can down the road like they've been doing here for a while now. But I guess we have to wait and see, right? Who knows? Maybe it's going to be a very, very good response. By the next episode of the Formula Bone F1 show, we should hopefully have an update here. Side note, the next episode of the Formula Bone F1 show will be in 2 weeks, as I'm taking next week off to both go celebrate my birthday, as well as meet my nephew, my new nephew, who I will be naming Nephew Bone. Okay, the second topic covered in the media statement here was sprint qualifying weekends. If you need a refresher on how F1 sprint weekends worked in their first year, which was this past season, the 2021 season, I have a video on my YouTube called F1 Sprint Explained in 3 minutes that will get you up to speed in, you guessed it, 3 minutes. It's in the title. So in the F1 Commission meeting, the FIA and Formula One came up with the magic number of sprints for 2022, and that number is just 3 again. They're doing 3 again. The same number as this past season, where this past season they took place at Silverstone, Monza, and Interlagos. There were a lot of rumors flying and speculation about just how many sprint races they would add in. Some people thought that they were going to add, double it to 6. Some people thought they were going to take them totally away. And I think they wanted to just play it down the middle and be like, we're just going to do the same amount, but we're going to tweak them a little bit, as I'll get into here in a second. I think 3 races is a good amount, personally. We are getting 2 new locations, though, as 2022's sprint races will be taking place at Imola, Austria, and Brazil again. So Imola and Austria are the new ones. Brazil is the same as this past season. I will say Imola seems like a very odd choice to me, given the tightness of the track and the lack of passing zones. And I'm not just saying that because I recently raced at Imola on twitch.tv/FormulaBone. And so part of me does feel like now, as somebody who has raced at Imola in some capacity, I do have the ability to speak on the tightness of the track and how difficult it is to drive and how it's a weird place for a sprint. I think mostly in a joking manner, but there's a little bit of sincerity in my brain where it's you have raced there in some capacity. Most people have never raced there in any capacity. So I guess I'm a little bit delusional in that regard. But I really am not sure how Imola made the list, and I would love to know the FIA and Formula One's thought process here. As my Twitch race engineer, Ryan, who helps me race, he's in my ear all the time, giving me tips, tricks, some advice during the race. In the Formula Bone Discord, which you can join via the link in the description of this episode, my race engineer, Ryan, said that he thinks the Imola sprint will just be a procession. I agree. I think this race will either just be an extension of the driver's parade, where it's just the drivers driving on the track, nobody's trying to pass, they're all just kind of chilling. Either that, or it's going to feature a nasty shunt because of somebody getting too aggressive in the tight little track there at Imola and maybe, getting off into the grass. And I just hope that George Russell doesn't throw hands again, okay? You never know. As we talked about on the stream yesterday, George is on a villain arc right now, Seemed like a nice guy, but he might be going to the dark side here with Mercedes. Remains to be seen. I'm not making any bold proclamations yet. I'm just saying George Russell might be a villain here shortly. Or a hero. More likely a villain. So the FIA and F1 also proposed and approved, again, subject to World Motorsport Council further approval, a number of large changes to how sprint weekends would work in 2022, taking into account feedback from their own members drivers, teams, fans, and historians, these changes are as follows. First, the official name is being changed from sprint qualifying to sprint. I'll get to why this change is happening in a minute. Second, way more points are up for grabs in 2022. It's a massive change here, guys. In 2021, P1 in sprint got 3 points, P2 got 2 points, and P3 got 1 point. So if you won F1 sprint, it was the equivalent to a P9 with fastest lap in a normal Grand Prix in terms of points awarded. In 2022, P1 gets 8 points now. So if you win F1 sprint, it's equivalent to getting P6 in a normal Grand Prix in terms of points awarded. Imagine if Lewis or Max or some other frontrunner who remains to be seen in the upcoming season with the new rule changes crashes out in sprint and their rival finishes first. It's literally equivalent to that rival having raced in a bonus race and finishing 6th. Sprint races are really going to factor into the points here next year. I mean, it's pretty insane. Like last season, 3 plus 2 plus 1, let's count the old, that's 6. So this past season, 6 total points were up for grabs. In this coming season, 8 points are up for grabs for just first place. Truly a massive change. So, yeah, I think, and by the way, actually, not only are 8 points up for grabs for P1, P2 gets 7 points, P3 gets 6 points, P4 gets 5 points, P5 gets 4 points, P6 gets 3 points, P7 gets 2 points, and P8 even gets a point. So last season, it was only P1, P2, P3, all the way down to P8 gets points in F1 sprint this coming season. There are a lot of points up for grabs in sprints now, which I think the FIA and Formula One added in to improve the stakes and thus improve the racing. And third, as far as F1 sprint goes, big changes. Now, this one comes across as confusing, in my opinion. The way they worded it, I find to be confusing. Crofty agreed with me on Twitter. Well, he tweeted it, and I agreed with him, I should say. Him and I are in agreement. Here's what it said. Pole position for the Grand Prix will now be awarded to the fastest driver in qualifying on Friday rather than the winner of sprint. I'll repeat that. Pole position for the Grand Prix will now be awarded to the fastest driver in qualifying on Friday rather than the winner of sprint. However, this is not saying that whoever wins qualifying on Friday starts Sunday's race in P1. It's merely saying that as far as the record books and pole position award are concerned, qualifying and not sprint are where pole position, the award for top qualifier, will now be decided. So, for example, last season at Silverstone, Lewis finished first in qualifying, but Max Verstappen was awarded pole position because he finished first in sprint. Now, pole position, the award, the title for the record books for the trophy, is now being awarded to the winner of qualifying, not the winner of sprint. So that is why they are changing the name of sprint qualifying to just sprint, because pole position is being given out to the winner of qualifying now, not the winner of sprint. So they removed qualifying from the name of sprint qualifying. Stay with me here. I know it's getting a little nitty gritty. So sprint still determines the grid, the starting grid in 2022, but it no longer determines the winner of qualifying. Now, the way this is worded is less confusing to racing fans who deal with reverse grids, where a driver can get pole position in qualifying and then start a race from the back. But for those of us whose entry into racing is from Formula One, we think of the term pole position as the person who starts the Grand Prix in first place. So this is definitely worded confusingly to many people. This episode of the Formula Bolen F1 show is brought to you in part by a sponsor that I love and am super excited to have supporting the podcast, and that is Felix Gray Glasses. I'm literally wearing them on my face right now, and I cannot wait to tell you about them. The good folks at Felix Gray create effective, research-backed products to improve humans' relationships with technology. It all started 5 years ago when Felix Gray set out to create eyewear that would make it easier and more comfortable for humans to stare at screens. Why? Because whether you like it or not, we all live in a digital world now, and that means we are forced to look at screens, and more screens every day. Right now, I have my computer screen, I have both camera screens, and I've got two other monitors to my right and the screen on my audio interface. I have so many screens staring at me right now, and these glasses I'm wearing on my face are saving me from them. So the thing about all these screens is that they are wreaking havoc on our eyeballs and brains and causing things like eye strain, headaches, and blurry vision. The blue light emitted from these screens is the culprit, and Felix Gray's clear blue light lenses filter 15 times more blue light than other clear lenses. 9 out of 10 customers experience relief from eye strain, headaches, and or blurry vision, and Felix Gray Glasses don't just do a great job of protecting your eyes and brain from the evil of screens, they're also incredibly high quality and built to last. Their frames are lightweight and durable organic acetate and are hand-finished in Italy, and their lenses are double-sided anti-reflective, scratch-resistant, and have the blue light filtration infused within the lens material itself. It's not just a sticker on top of a clear lens, it is infused in the lens itself. If you're wondering, I'm currently wearing the Kepler frame with the clear lens. Felix Gray also has sunglasses, which I have to the right of me here, and they also have both non-prescription and prescription glasses available for those of you who already wear glasses and are ready to upgrade. Check out Felix Gray's full selection at felixgrayglasses.com/fbone, where you'll have access to free shipping, returns, and exchanges for a completely risk-free shopping experience. Try them out, and if you don't like them for some reason, which I think you will, just help yourself to free shipping, returns, and exchanges at felixgrayglasses.com/fbone. Free shipping, free returns, free exchanges, felixgrayglasses.com/fbone. There's a link for that deal in the description of this episode. Thank you, the Felix Gray Glasses, for supporting the Formula Bone F1 show. So the final topic covered in the F1 Commission meeting's media statement is treatment of short races. Now, this was obviously a point of emphasis after the debacle at Spa, where points were awarded even though no laps were completed that were not behind the safety car, which is still crazy to think about. Shouts to George Russell, though. Again, I don't want to take anything away from George Russell and his incredible qualifying lap, or Nikita Mazepin and his stonking fastest lap that I cannot stop bringing up because the streets will never forget. But I think we can all agree, a race cannot take place only behind a safety car. A race implies the ability to, pass other cars on the track. So I'm glad they addressed this ahead of the 2022 season. The media statement reads as follows. Following the weather-affected 2021 FIA Formula One Belgian Grand Prix, the Commission approved proposed updates to the sporting regulations as follows. No points will be awarded unless a minimum of 2 laps have been completed by the leader without a safety car and or virtual safety car intervention. So, of course, if this rule had been in place last season, there would be no points awarded at the 2021 Belgian Grand Prix. So this rule right here, this first part of the regulation, totally says right there, we are no longer allowing points to be awarded for situations like Spa last year. It goes on to say, if the leader has completed more than 2 laps, but less than 25% of the scheduled race distance, the top 5 finishers, remember that's just the top 5, will be awarded points as follows. P1 would get 6 points, P2 would get 4 points, P3 would get 3 points, P4 would get 2 points, and P5 would get 1 point. If the leader has completed 25% but less than 55% of the scheduled race distance, points will be awarded as follows. This time, it is to 9 drivers. So first place would get 13 points, second, 10 points, third, 8 points, fourth, 6 points, fifth, 5 points, sixth, 4 points, 7th, 3 points, 8th, 2 points, and 9th, 1 point. So once you get to that tier, they add in 4 more points, 4 more positions that can earn points. If the leader has completed 50% but less than 75% of the scheduled race distance, points will be awarded as follows. And this time they added in 1 more spot, so it's the top 10 drivers. First place would get 19 points. Second would get 14 points. Third would get 12 points. Fourth, 9 points. Fifth, 8 points. Sixth, 6 points. Seventh, 5 points. Eighth, 3 points. Ninth, 2 points. And 10th, 1 point. I can't help but notice, though, that nowhere in their statement here did the FIA and Formula One cover the topic of refunding or otherwise compensating everyone who went to the Belgian Grand Prix and got to watch absolutely nothing besides the safety car and medical car going absolutely crazy out there and drifting. Pretty weird, huh? It's almost like they don't have the fans' best interest in mind. Again, all these approved new regulations that I've said today are subject to approval by the World Motorsport Council, and I don't think any are crazy enough to not get approved. And of course, we're all anxiously awaiting FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem publicly presenting news of structural changes and action plan in the coming days regarding the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Support for the Formula Bowen F1 show is brought to you in part by Manscaped, who is the Max Verstappen of men's below-the-waist grooming, aka the current champion of the world. Manscaping is the art of taming a man's unruly body hair, which spans from the chest pubes to the ball fro and below. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I used to manscape with the same trimmer I used on my face, which is a big no-no, because the hair from down there is not supposed to be up here. I'm not proud of it. I regret it. It was gross, but I'm a changed man now, you guys. I know some of you listening, by the way, have done it too. You don't have to lie. You don't have to say it, but in your brain, don't lie to yourself. And this is why I love Manscaped, because they are here to solve this issue once and for all. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. They just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0, and it is the greatest groin and body trimmer ever created. The trimmer is waterproof, and it helps reduce a bunch of manscaping hazards, such as nicks, ingrown hairs, and grooming accidents. It also features wireless charging and comes with 4 guard lengths for just the right trim. I have it right here in front of me. Manscaped also has a nose hair trimmer, which I have in front of me as well, that is an absolute godsend. When you have a hairy face like I do, man, I love this thing, okay? You never know that you need a nose trimmer until you use a nose trimmer, and you're like, where have you been all my life? I love my nose trimmer. You'll love yours. Get 20% off and free shipping. What a deal. 20% off and free shipping with my code FBO at manscaped.com. That is 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use code FBO. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Thank you to Manscaped for supporting the Formula Bowen F1 show. A link for that deal can be found in the description of this episode. Next up, let's hit up the Bowen phone and respond to a voicemail from a listener just like you.
J Boney Bone. This is Aiden calling from Indiana, and I just had a question since this is the Formula Bone podcast. I was wondering your feelings on Formula E and if it even lives up to the hype, if you miss the sound or whatever it is.
Yeah, so honestly, the extent of my Formula E knowledge is as follows. Nick de Vries is amazing. Stoffel Van Dorn and Italian Jesus are there now. Andretti Autosport has a Formula E team with an American on it, Oliver Askew, after we all thought that, Andretti Autosport was going to buy Sauber, whatever it is, and put Colton Herta on the F1 grid. Still sad that didn't happen, but I remember this announcement. They're like, get ready for huge news from Andretti Autosport. We're all like, oh my God, they're buying Sauber. And then they're like, we got a Formula E team. And I was like, okay, like that's kind of cool, but incredibly disappointing. Some other things I know about Formula E. They race on a lot of street circuits that are pretty narrow. They call the races E-Prix instead of Grand Prix, which I think is kind of lame. People complain about the lack of noise and how the Formula E cars sound like Roombas and monorails, which I think is funny. But I have a solution to that problem. Hear me out. People always complain that the turbo hybrids don't sound anywhere near as good as the V12s, and they definitely don't think the Formula E cars sound as good even as the turbo hybrids. So why don't we strap some speakers onto the Formula E cars and have them just play V12 engine noise that is directly tied to the Formula E car's throttle so that the sound matches the throttle percentage, so everybody who misses the V12 sound can start watching Formula E. I know, it's genius. Right now, you're probably scratching your head and you're like, how is J-Bone such a genius? I know. You should pay me for that one, FIA. If you use that, I'm coming after you. So anyways, caller, to answer your question without answering your question, I do not have anything more to say about Formula E than what I've just said. but I do want to get more into it. Thank you so much for joining me for another F1 off-season episode of the Formula Bone F1 show. Before I get going, I'd like to run you through the links that I've placed in the description of this episode. You can help support the Formula Bone F1 show financially by buying Formula Bone merch at bolenmedia.com/shop. I'm currently wearing the Formula Bone F1 show t-shirt. You can check it out. You can also support the show financially in an even greater capacity by supporting today's sponsors. Shop Felix Gray Glasses risk-free with free shipping, returns, and exchanges at felixgrayglasses.com/fbone, F-B-O-N-E. Shop Manscaped at manscaped.com with promo code FBO for 20% off plus free shipping. Two great deals for you guys. You can join the 200-plus member Formula Bone Discord server with the invite link I've placed in the description of this episode. And you can watch me live stream myself playing the F1 video game on twitch.tv/Formula Bone and talk to me in chat while I do it. Again, every link I just mentioned can be found in the description of this episode. You can also follow me, J-Bone, aka Jared Borislow, everywhere on social media at Jared Borislow. That's JaredBorislow. And if you're now all caught up on the Formula Bone F1 show, but you want to keep hearing my voice, I co-host a comedy podcast called the Ross Bolen Podcast, where we share a ton of laughs covering a wide variety of topics, including current events, non-F1 sports, fast food, music, funny news stories, you name it, we talk about it. If you like this podcast, I promise you'll love that one. You can check out the Ross Bolen Podcast wherever you are listening to this podcast right now. That's ROSSBOLEN, the Ross Bolen Podcast. Folks, it's time for the NPR-style sign-off. The Formula Bone F1 show is recorded in Austin, Texas, and brought to you at Bolen Media. It's hosted by me, Jared J-Bone Borislow, and I also produce the show because I'm the content machine. Kate Orris makes a bunch of the show clips that you see on social media at Formula Bone. Our iconic theme music and Twitch stream music is by 7 to Midnight. You can follow him on social media at the number 7, TO Midnight. You can follow the show on social media by following at Formula Bone everywhere. You can watch the show on YouTube by searching Formula Bone. And you can help the show gain new listeners by rating and reviewing the Formula Bone F1 show on Apple Podcasts and by rating it on Spotify. Until next time, J-Bone!